Let's talk about layoffs. They're in the news a lot lately, from Microsoft to Salesforce to you name it. Most companies are doing layoffs right now, and so it's a question I get asked questions quite often about what are layoffs and why are they happening, or what are some of the causes behind it. Before we get into layoffs, though, let me introduce myself. I'm Erin Tran, former corporate executive and co-founder of Aristia Consulting Group, where we provide marketing operations and transformation strategy to mid-market and enterprise organizations. I've also founded My Yuko Journey to help with the learning and development of our future business leaders. It's an area that I'm really passionate about, and I believe that if we are all continuously learning, we can develop great leaders that will change the course of how organizations show up to allow everyone to thrive. So if this sounds like you, a future business leader who wants to make an impact in the corporate world and make a difference regardless of the area of business that you're in within the organization, do your future self a favor and subscribe, and you'd be doing me a favor too, because you'd be making a difference to the future here. Thank you. Now let's get back to layoffs. So what are layoffs? Layoffs are when an organization, regardless of size, lays off a group of individuals within that organization in order to reduce their expenditures. Now, there might be different reasons for doing it, but at the end of the day, it reduces their cost line. And we'll get into different reasons why organizations might in just a minute. But principally, it's not an individual that is underperforming and getting laid off, or it's not an individual that's not making their quota if they're in sales and I'm saying laid off, but essentially they're being terminated because they're underperforming. So we're not talking about those individuals where there's a process and it happens on an individual basis due to non-performance. We're talking about a large organization, or even a small organization, laying off a group of individuals for a specific overall business reason, not related to performance. So let's get into why this might occur. Now, there's a number of reasons why layoffs might occur. I won't get into all of them today, but I do want to cover a few. So the first one that I want to talk about is, think about this. Around the holidays, we tend to indulge, we pick up a few extra pounds. January rolls around, the holidays are behind us, and we're looking in the mirror, or we're signing up for that gym membership, or we're thinking, if I eat a few less calories or I exercise a little bit more, I can lose those extra pounds. Organizations are not dissimilar as companies go through different cycles and waves, whether it is economically on a macroeconomic scale, whether it's economics within a country, whether it's the economics within an industry, or whether that company has gotten rounds of funding or stock price adjustments. Companies can be flush with resources to really grow quite quickly, and they'll tend to do a lot of hiring during those times. And when resources get tight, then they will tend to cut back. So more recently, we've had things like COVID and pullback in the economy and inflation. And so lots of organizations right now are in a wave of, they've been very spendy, and now they're looking at, how do I cut those expenses? And so the volume of employees in an organization has at a given time comes under scrutiny in moments like this. So another reason a company might do layoffs is if they are making a pivot. Now, this might be a pivot they're currently making, or a pivot that they have already made. And so let's talk about what I mean by pivot. A pivot is where an organization, let's say an organization that creates products, whether they're physical products or digital products. Let's say they've created a new product, and their existing product doesn't need as much development, it doesn't need as much support, it doesn't need as much sales effort. What they might do is they might say, hey, over here I have X amount of employees, but this product right here that we're not focusing on as much anymore, whether it's a legacy product or we're still selling, we're not selling it at the same level volume, and we're not putting as much effort and energy into development and support and services as we were before. We are instead putting a lot more effort and energy over here. And let's say the organization has, in order to really get this other new product out to market, already invested energy, effort, resources, money, people, etc. into this, then they don't need everybody that's over here. And so they're going to lay off some amount of people over here based on what they do or don't need. So that's the second type. A third type of layoff occurs when an organization does not make good choices, and it results in costs and revenue being out of line, and stakeholders, investors get a little bit worried. The numbers aren't looking good. You may see this reflected in the stock price going down. So this isn't necessarily things were good and now the economy has turned. This is an organization that has maybe hired too much or not the right type of people, and now the numbers don't really add up and they need to come more in line. And so this is where they'll make some cuts in terms of layoffs. So we've talked about what layoffs are and why layoffs might occur. One of the questions that comes up around why not just shift people to another area of the business? There's a whole bunch of job openings. So if we pick on a large company, let's pick on a Microsoft or a Salesforce or a Netflix or an Apple. You might see a bunch of job openings if you go to LinkedIn.com or any of the other job board aggregators, or if you go on the company's website itself and you go to their careers page or jobs page, you will see lots of job openings, and yet you'll hear about a 2,000 person layoff. This is because the people being laid off, they cannot go and place in those other jobs. So for example, if you write code and you're on the product team and the company is hiring salespeople, you cannot just take a product person and go plug them into a sales role. Or maybe they've hired too many salespeople and now they don't need as many salespeople and they have a need for more engineers. Or they are moving engineering from one country to another country, or one area of the country to another area of the country. Unless somebody is willing to relocate, or unless the company is offering a relocation package, they will generally lay off one set of folks in one area of a country or in one country as they ramp up production in another area of the country. And then a final, I guess, tied to that, another final reason why a company might do layoffs is that they are ramping down or not doing as well in one country, even though they might be doing well in another country. So you might actually see an increase in hiring in one country and a decrease in another country. So it can be product line based, it can be country based, either one of those apply. Right now, overall, companies are undergoing a larger than normal shift. But I would say in 5 years, when we look back to right now, this shift will probably seem normal because there are lots of new pressures, AI being one of them. So this video isn't going to talk about AI, but just know that just have an awareness that there are lots of things right now that are creating opportunities for companies to be smarter about where they spend their dollars. And there's going to be some big changes in the future of organizations that are I believe, going to accelerate the pace of these changes. So I'm going to create 2 more videos in this series. One is going to talk about why you might be at risk for a layoff, and then I'll do a third video on how to maybe avoid being at risk for a layoff. So this way you can kind of get a sense of, gosh, am I in an area of the business, a department, a part of the country, an industry that might be at risk, and then also what you might be able to do to minimize your risk of layoff. I have a number of friends and colleagues that have been laid off, and it's been for a whole variety of reasons as mentioned. So thank you so much for watching the video, and again, just a reminder, your future self is counting on you, and I would love it if you would subscribe and continue on your learning journey. Thanks for tuning in today. I'll see you in the next video of this series.